This segment will take us from section 13 all the way down to 17. So it's got a couple of bullet points we're going to run through. Survival does not mean somebody died. It means that if there's anything binding to either party, it will survive closing and remain binding upon the parties until fully observed, kept, or performed. Classic example: seller, the window's broken. Seller calls the window company. It's back ordered. It's going to take 2 months. We're closing in a month. Well, it's got a crack in it. Not a big deal. So the seller still has to perform that duty and get that installed, even though we have closed. It is optional for a buyer to get a home warranty, and it's not required that they get one. But a home warranty is like a health insurance for a house. It covers all the major systems, but it's insurance. They often say no more than they say yes. But if we are going to ask for one, we have to say we have to agree that a home warranty is ordered by whoever, the buyer, the seller, whatever, with at least 12 months worth of coverage after closing, and will or will not be provided by closing, and how much and who will be paying it. If the buyer's to pay any deficit, and surplus reverts to the payer. So what we're trying to say is you would go through and say, we want to order America's Preferred Home Warranty with at least 12 months of coverage after closing. It will be provided by closing, and $700 will be paid by seller to the home warranty company. If it's only $500, if it's $800, the buyer has to pay the deficit. If it's a surplus, it's only a $500 policy, and you ask for $700 up here, it goes back to the seller. I guess it could be paid by the agent as well. That's why it's in here. And the type of the home warranty can be written right here. So home warranties are a great thing, I think, for first-time buyers or any buyer, because you don't know if that fridge makes a weird noise every morning at 3 a.m. or not. So I recommend that most buyers do it, but it depends on the deal and who's going to pay for it. Fire and casualty, this pretty much goes into saying that if the property is damaged wholly or partially by fire or other casualty, mudslide, tree falling through it, whatever, flood, whatever might happen, the parties, both buyer and seller, will have the right for 5 business days after notice, meaning somebody's delivered handwritten or email of the damage, to either party could deliver notice of termination to the other party. If the party does not deliver notice of termination, the parties proceed according to the contract, and seller is to be responsible to repair all damage, to remit to the buyer any amount sufficient for repairs, or assign the buyer the right to all proceeds of insurance and remit any deductible amount applicable to such casualty. So let's say it's a week before closing and a tree falls on the roof, and the roofer comes out and takes the tree off, and there's a tarp over it, and the insurance company's going to pay out. Well, it says here that they're going to repair all damage. They're going to remit any amount sufficient, or they can give us the money for the repairs if they got the check already. Or they also have to pay their deductible. We've had this happen in hailstorms. House burned down, right? That's really bad. But what if you wanted to wait out 6 months because the insurance company's going to pay for a whole new house to be built? Well, you might like that. So you can stay in this thing and keep going. Or you'd be like, I can't wait 6 months, and I've delivered notice within those 5 business days, so I'm out. And it says the brokers and parties should ensure that they are protected by appropriate risk management strategies such as insurance. Another little CYA. The property disclosure statement. So, by law, a seller has to fill out a property disclosure with 15 exemptions. And you learn these in real estate school, and I will not bother you with them, except for there is one exemption that does not make sense, and that just means I don't want to do it. If a seller has never lived in the property, that is not an excuse not to fill out a property disclosure. So don't let people pull that on you. So you have 2 options. The buyer and seller agree that the seller has delivered prior to this contract. So you need to see this before making an offer, because it's required by law. If after delivery the seller discovers that there's a problem or an inaccuracy, or something happens, the seller shall promptly correct this inaccuracy, and the buyer understands that the closing disclosure does not replace inspections. This is more for just the history of the property. The buyer understands and agrees that the disclosure statement contains only a statement made by the seller. Parties agree that the brokers have met requirements of the law and not responsible, nor are we liable for information inside of it. We do not write it. We do not help them. We do not know. This is not a substitute. This is very important for the buyers and inspectors inspecting the property. So I would check yes. You can also check no if they fall into one of the 15 exemptions. Oftentimes, some people just won't fill it out because they're like, I never lived there, I'm not filling it out. You can't make them fill it out. You can't. So you can check this if you're okay with it. If not, get with one of us and we have a strategy to help encourage them to fill it out. The next section talks about lead-based paint. Obviously, if a house is built before 1978, it may contain lead-based paint hazards, and they have to sign a disclosure, and so do you, and so does the other agent, and everything else. So make sure you read that. That is a $10,000 fine if we do not have it. Lead-based paint is still a big problem for the government, I assume. So they make us get this document signed when doing it, and that'll round us out for this section.